video, I'm going to discuss how to read a cross-stitch pattern. Cross-stitch patterns are pretty easy once you get the hang of them, and our Zollie cross-stitch patterns are made the same way that other cross-stitch patterns that you're going to find out there are made. So once you get the hang of our patterns, other patterns should be pretty easy to decipher as well. This pattern is the Let Go pattern with the artwork by the Far Woods. It's the first project in our beginner cross-stitch kit, and I'm going to help you understand what you're looking at. The most important thing to understand about cross-stitch patterns is that the grid that you see here has little squares inside of it, and the little squares here, one square represents one square on your Aida cloth. So the pattern that you see represented here is going to be stitched exactly square for square on your Aida cloth. There's different ways that this is broken up to help you read the pattern, but once you get that, it all makes a little bit more sense. Blank spaces here on the pattern where you don't see a color or a symbol are actually just meant to be left completely blank. So unlike other types of needlepoint where the whole canvas is covered, cross-stitch actually uses the blank canvas as part of the design. So if there's no color and no symbol in an area, so in between all of these rain streams here is just white, so you don't stitch those at all. Where you do stitch, those spaces are marked by a color and a symbol. So you'll notice that the symbols are there even though our patterns are printed in color, so it's pretty easy to know which color goes where. But this is standard in cross-stitch patterns for a couple of reasons. One reason that you have a color and a symbol to tell you which color to use is that some patterns have colors that are very close to each other or colors that are blended. Other patterns are printed in black and white, so you wouldn't be able to see color here. You would just be following the symbols. And the other reason is for accessibility, so that if you have trouble seeing the difference between colors, you could still follow the pattern. One thing to pay attention to on this pattern is that some of these symbols are different even though the color is the same, because the stitch is actually going to be different. So all of the rain here is made with half stitches as opposed to the cloud, which is made of a full or a complete cross stitch. The other thing that you're not going to find on this pattern are the selvage edges. So on your fabric, you're going to want to remember that the 1.5 inch border or a little bit more all the way around is not meant to be stitched in. So the selvage edges are not represented here, but you should keep this pattern centered on your fabric. Don't start this up in the exact upper left-hand corner of your fabric. You're going to notice that there are numbers on the sides of the patterns. This helps you count really quickly as you go. So every 10 squares is a number, and they're also marked with a darker line. This helps you count very quickly if you're going over a larger area. So this is 10, 20, 30, 40, and then I would count here because this isn't a complete 10 and that's not complete 10. But it means that I don't have to count every single tiny little square going down. If I'm doing a really large area, I can say, oh, I know that this is 10 squares over or 20 squares over. It will definitely save you time. And the other thing that you'll notice on the pattern are these arrows. These help you identify the center line of your project. So this is the very middle of the pattern here. This is the very middle of the pattern there. If I only had 20 stitches, this arrow would be over the number 10, but since there's actually 28 stitches, it looks a little bit off center because it isn't exactly centered. That's the same going down, but the arrow is definitely marking the exact center of the project. And that's it. That should be all the components of a cross stitch pattern.